And the two Price brothers, Leon and Carl, Yistin Harris at standoff, and Deacon the scrum half. The forwards, Fielden, Pratt and Lynch, Myers, Peacock, who is the skipper, and Bradford. And on the bench, Vanganar, Cook, Ferris and Parker. The coach is Brian Noble. Now St Helens, Wellens returns at fullback after missing the win against Leeds last week. Albert, Lyon, Talau and Gardner, Hooper and Sean Long captaining the team. There's no Paul Sculthorpe at loose forward, but they're pretty impressive anyway, with Fozzard, Cunningham and Paul Anderson, Gilmore, Wilkin and Vinnie Anderson at loose forward. And on the bench, Edmondson, Graham, Roby and Farsavalu. And the coach is Daniel Anderson. So Sean Long, sporting a new haircut. The long blonde locks have gone. Leads the Saints out. They beat Leeds in Daniel Anderson's first game in charge in many ways. It was always on the cards. Now can they reaffirm their status as real title contenders? But they are seeking only their second Super League victory here at Fortress Odsal. For Bradford and their supporters, though, it has been an erratic season as they go through a transitional stage, and it's a credit to them really that they remain in contention for a top two place. An element of youth has been introduced to a squad which swept all before them in 2003, but they're still up there despite losing 3 here at Odsal this year. Well, the 10 seasons of Summer Rugby League has been dominated by these two clubs. Between them, they've won 6 of the 9 Challenge Cups and 7 of the 9 Super League titles. And head-to-head in Super League action, it is 15 wins apiece. Someone can edge ahead today under the control of Ronnie Lawton, the big match referee. But Steve-O, who do you fancy?
Well, it's going to be difficult for the St Helens side. It's not the best hunting ground for them, but the one thing about they've got a good support that come over the Pennines, mainly due to the fact that they will get value for money because Saints have put out a very strong side.
Deacons kick off underneath at Wellens. Here is Paul Anderson, who was once upon a time a huge hero here at Odsal, but now he's being pushed back towards the Saints line. That's magnificent defence from Bradford in the first tackle of the game. Now Aidy Gardner.
That's the sort of defence that you need. You talk about lifting your side right from the kick-off, and the big guns are being just absolutely knocked to the ground.
Cunningham, the dummy half. Here is Sean Long. Good tackle made there by Andy Lynch. And the drive forward again by Lee Gilmore, another former Bradford ball. It's with Long. He funnels it out wide to Wilkin, and Wilkin on the left foot gets the kick in, and it bounces into the arms of Robbie Paul, operating at full back this evening. It's his 40th consecutive appearance.
Not the best kick really, and neither was it the best chase. New coach Daniel Anderson will have to get a message out there. They're going to be a lot more quicker onto the man they can, and also they can't afford to just kick directly to Robbie Paul. Got plenty of experience in that position at fullback.
And here they come again now, Bradford, in the shape of Stuart Fielden. Thought about offloading the ball, but saw that Cunningham was in between him and his colleague. It's Brad Myers here for Bradford, a little half break, hauled down by Long low down. And Jamie Lyon was in attendance as well. Pratt to Deacon, and Deacon will float the kick over the top. Brilliantly picked up though by Wellens. And Wellens will launch this latest St Helens attack.
Well, Brian Noble will be perhaps a little bit upset, that, especially now that they've given away a silly penalty, offside out wide. With a little chip over the top. Paul Deacon, of course, last week just absolutely took the whole side apart. His kicking game was quite superb. I suppose in many ways you could say the same about Sean Long against Leeds last week. He really did just take care of everybody. Can he do that again tonight?
First penalty of the match, and St Helens looking to gain ground. They're in centre field. Here is Nick Fozzard, and Fozzard gets them to the 20-metre mark on tackle number 2. There is Daniel Anderson in the sunglasses, watching from behind the sticks here that St Helens now are attacking, and he finds Wilkin, does Cunningham with the pass. Good tackle needed by Brad Myers. Here is Cunningham, great ball back on the inside. Here's the first strike away, John Wilkin. And John Wilkin gets the first St Helens try. Saints mean business by the looks of things. And John Wilkin, who has got a key role to play in the absence of Sculthorpe, comes up with the try.
Super play there by Cunningham. Went to the blind side, whipped it back on the inside. This is absolutely outstanding. You see how it just pulled the defence across, and Vinnie Anderson, short pass to this fellow Wilkin. Pretty happy about it too. But what a great effort by the hooker, Kieran Cunningham. It really just dragged all the Bradford defence. They thought he was going to use his muscle to try to dive low towards the line. He didn't. He whipped the ball back. We've seen him do that on many occasions. Flipped the ball back over his right shoulder. And Vinnie Anderson supplied the pass. Wilkin the try. Can he convert?
Well, Sean Long, he was man of the match against Leeds last week with 18 points, a try and 7 from 7. And this is eminently kickable for Sean Long. And that's the first one for Long tonight. And St Helens have a 6-0 lead here at Odsal.
Super play. Look how the hooker's gone away. Defence goes across, back over the shoulder, bang. Very slow. They failed to pull in. Andy Lynch was hanging around. They caught him out.
So a wonderful start for St Helens. Paul Wellens again underneath the kickoff. Here comes Paul Anderson.
And although it's a team game, it's full of individual battles, and I think the 4 guys starting at prop tonight probably personify the individual elements of this game. You've got Andy Lynch and Stuart Fielding for Bradford. Really, I would imagine that Brian Noble's tasked them with the job of, listen, early doors, you've got to get on top of Nick Fozzard and Paul Anderson, drive them backwards. We've seen them do that on a couple of occasions, but I think that the momentum that both sides will want to gain will come crucially from those 4 players.
Wilkin, the try scorer, takes the tackle. An interesting switch in fortunes for John Wilkin, of course, sent off here in the 54-8 defeat last Easter Monday. And of course, a day that has got a big black ring around it, really, for St Helens and their supporters. It, in many ways, was the start of all their problems in 2004, that match here. And now Saints are caught offside.
Well, he's making his presence felt is Ronnie Lawton, the official. No doubt that both coaches will get the message out there that he means business. Quite a few to pick from. But what a great start for St Helens. Stunned this huge crowd here at Odsal. They're not used to that.
Yes, they've all gone a little quiet, but here come the Bulls now in the shape of Stuart Fielding. And again he looks round for support. Oh, that's an awful pass. He dumped it on the ground and it went to Vinnie Anderson, not Paul Deacon.
Well, he didn't have to do that.
That's the second time he was looking for that move, though, Steve-O. Oh, and there's a mistake from Darren Albert, who has given himself up, actually. Ronnie Lawton hadn't blown for the knock-on. He will now.
Well, they're very fortunate there. Look, there was no one in position. The ball was flicked back. It's okay if you've got someone coming at you. Certainly got a fingertip to it. May have touched the knee going through, but... well, a golden opportunity just thrown away because Stuart Fielding, not good play at all.
Justin Harris finds Robbie Paul. He jinks inside. The first would be tackled from Wellens. Couldn't get away from Jason Hooper. And here now is Ben Harris, the mid-season signing from Australia. Harris for the Bulls, Bradford, and he gets it away to Peacock, who stands firm in the challenge against Cunningham. Bradford inching towards the St Helens line. Peacock will play the ball. Pratt to Justin Harris, to Deacon. Myers, always the dummy runner, it bounced off his chest. And here is Darren Albert. We have Tony Smith, the Leeds Rhinos coach, here with us this evening. Watching, of course, from the lofty position, 4 points clear at the top of the table. A Bradford win would do you nicely, Tony, I think.
Oh, not too worried about it, really, Eddie. Just looking forward to a great game, and it's you know, it started pretty well there for Saints. A couple of errors here and a couple of penalties. This is really interesting, I reckon, for Bradford. They're really good at scoring after penalties, St Helens. You give them field position, they'll throw a lot at you around the ruck, and you know, it's a big test for Bradford here right now in this set.
Second penalty of the match for St Helens, and they're looking very busy Movement all off the ball, and this is Wellens who spins and turns into the tackle from Peacock. But they're 18 metres from the line. And here comes Lee Gilmore dancing his way through. There was no second phase. Cunningham waits at dummy half, and he goes for it himself, Cunningham, and they have to be strong to push him back. Long waits, dummy half for Saints. Back it goes to Vinnie Anderson. He finds Hooper, and here is Talau. Interesting tonight that St Helens are playing their first choice back line with Wellens in the full-back berth, and Long dabs the ball in, and Deacon just runs the ball dead, and Bradford are under the cosh here.
Just shows you how important to keep applying that pressure. Sean Long again back to his form with a little kick. Well spotted by this fella Paul Deacon, it had to be. But most impressed with the way that St Helens have come out with all guns blazing. One would have expected maybe a forward battle just to slowly and surely work your way into this game, but they've kept this ball alive.
Here's the big forward now though, Nick Fozzard, and he gets it away brilliantly to Wellens, who finds Darren Albert, and Vinnie Anderson went without it, but Jamie Lyon managed to retain possession for the Saints. Anderson, he was looking for the penalty there, Lyon as well, didn't like the tackle from Leon Price. Here is John Wilkin.
Well, that was a silly play there from Jamie Lyman. Okay, he got to him, maybe he just hit him across the face, but you don't run the game yourself. Referee could have penalised him there for not getting on with things.
Great ball from Hooper. Talau, ball flicked back, and it's picked up by Eddie Gardner over on the far side. He's wiped the tackle count down, Ronnie Lawton.
Certainly.
This is the third consecutive set of 6 now that Saints have had. He's lost it there, Hooper.
He gave the penalty the other way. He tried to play it before he stood up. That's good refereeing by Ronnie Lawton. First he just saw the Bradford player just touch it with his foot. It's back to 6.
Pratt was all over the top of Jason Hooper.
Well,
it wasn't Pratt, actually, it was Ben Harris.
He should have just waited then. He tried to plonk the ball down. You've got to regain your feet. You'll pay the price either way. You'll either lose it, knock on, or you'll be penalised.
Saints seem to have an obsession to keep the ball alive at the moment, Eddie. They're offloading whenever possible inside their opponent's half, and in fact even inside their own half. It's going to make life difficult for the Bradford Bulls if they continue to move the ball as well as they are doing.
We're 10 minutes into the match. We haven't heard from Dave Hadfield yet. How can we miss someone as big as Dave? Let's go down there. It's man of the match time. Dave, it's all yours.
Thanks, Eddie. There's a certain symmetry about it last weekend with Sean Long and Paul Deacon both winning man of the match watches for dominant half-back performance. The difference tonight is that Sean Long's at the hub of a full-strength St Helens back division. It's a rarity this season. We've already seen the importance of John Wilkin in the Paul Sculthorpe role. For Bradford, Robbie Paul, somewhere we haven't seen much of him for a long time, and that's full-back with Carl Pratt. Had a good run at Tuka last week. He gets a start there this time. Let's see if he's the answer to the most long-running problem.
It's offside against St Helens, and Daniel Anderson watching on with Brian Noble, and in the foreground Steve McNamara.
Well, it was pretty late blowing the whistle on this one. It was knock on either way.
He was screaming at St Helens defenders that they were all offside, but he gave Bradford the advantage. This is Yestin Harris. Harris plays the ball to Deacon. On his inside is Andy Lynch. Lynch enjoying a consecutive start for the Bradford Bulls. He's played most of his football this year off the bench for Bradford. Pratt gets it away to Peacock.
Nice little pass there. You could see Peacock not running straight, coming back on the angle, but it was well spotted by the Saints defence.
And that's Lee Radford. Back it comes on the loop to Radford, to Deacon rather, who finds Fielden. 4 tackles St Helens have withstood. Pratt is the dummy half. Here is Deacon. A dab to the in-goal, looking for Leon Price. Bravely taken in defence by Darren Albert. Normally the man, of course, who scores the points up the other end.
Well, he certainly made up for the error early. Got himself in a wonderful position. Had to take the gamble. So you've got to make sure that you don't move in off the whitewash very early, in case Bradford had gone for the power play.
6-0 here at Odsal. We're coming up to 12 minutes of this Sunday tea time kick-off. And the big hoof downfield by St Helens to clear the lines. Carl Price is after this, and he will pick it up one-handed. Cocky, the 18-year-old. Oh, and he's got his almost through Jamie Lyon. And we have final score coming in for Wakefield and Salford supporters. There's a penalty here for Bradford as Brian Noble watches. He thought maybe the advantage might have been forthcoming for Leon Price, but the full-time score from Wakefield is interesting reading. Salford were ahead 24 points to 14 just before we came on the air, but Wakefield have fought their way back into the match and they've won 36-24, and that's a vital win for them, bearing in mind the fact that Widnes had won at Lee. It's incredible, this Super League season, it really is. There's so many twists and turns still to come, as we see why Saints were offside and the referee Ronnie Lawton had blown the whistle and pulled Leon Price back. And Brian Noble was not too impressed with that decision from all accounts.
Eddie, I think he was actually trying to just calm Leon Price down. He got frustrated that the referee hadn't allowed play on. Sometimes Leon's temperament boils over and he just wanted to keep him focused on the game.
I don't think that was I think the latter stages when he was clapping his hands with Leon Price, I think that was certainly the reaction, but he was angry.
Right. Yeah, he'd every right to be, because beforehand it allowed Bradford, when they were close to the St. Helens line, to carry on the advantage.
Here's Carl Price, an really intuitive player, this young man. Impressive start to his rugby league career, and Pratt gets the ball back to Deacon, and here is Yestin Harris. And it's Bradford's turn to attack, but wonderful defence, as you say, from Lee Gilmore and Jason Hooper. Almost went without it there, Robbie Paul. There's the kick, Deacon under pressure, and Sean Long diffuses the bomb. The Deacon is hurt. He was hit a bit late after that kick.
Big problems.
Andy Lynch with the tackle on Willie Talau. This is Eddie Gardner now. Big hit by Lee Radford and also Fielden.
I must say that the official Ronnie Lawton is really giving it to both sides, saying, look, get the message. Get the message. Get back the full 10.
Interesting that James Graham is on, substitute last week also. Here is Nick Fozzard. Graham has come on for Paul Anderson. And Cunningham. He's trying to pinch a penalty then, because he ran into the back of Stuart Fielden, who, to be fair to Fielden, didn't touch him. That's a lovely little inviting kick from Long. And Carl Price almost made a meal of it.
Well, he had a second bite of it, got away with it. Such a big fellow, isn't he? As I say, he just dropped down. Jamie Lyon was just sniffing around, but again, the little kick from Sean Long, he really is controlling things. He hasn't had a good season. We saw that he came out of his shell last week, and he's certainly carrying on from there. It just makes you wonderful, Clark. You know, new coach Daniel Anderson, maybe he's just giving him a little bit of a lift.
Well, it looks that way, doesn't it? The speed with which they played the opening 15 minutes has been absolutely incredible, and most players can run continuously for about 12 or 15 minutes. After that, you do start to tire, and I just look at the Bradford defenders there in the line. They're huffing and puffing at the moment.
It's with Long. Great ball to Wellens. Good tackle by Fielden. He watched him all the way. Cunningham, does he fancy one himself? The ball via Long to Vinnie Anderson, and back to Cunningham again, and then back to Sean Long again. There's a gap for the kick. There it is, inviting the chase from Gardner, but flipped over the touching goal line by Stuart Reardon.
Super play by Stuart Reardon. And again, a beautifully well-weighted kick. Well, they'll be looking to get away with this, Bradford, because they really are under the cosh. Consecutive set of 6 yet again.
3 in a row for St Helens and
well,
coach Daniel Anderson.
We often say it, Eddie, don't we, that if you're going to get 3, you normally come up with a try.
Interesting, the last time that Daniel Anderson and Brian Noble met was in the Tri-Series last year, and Brian Noble won 2-0. This is John Wilkin now, score of the game's only try so far, converted by Sean Long. That's why it's 6-0. And Cunningham will scamper away again, showed it to Wellens, gave it to Long. Long releases the pass, finds Wilkin. The ball went backwards, says Ronnie Lawton, despite appeals from the Bradford players and supporters.
Well, they're going right through their repertoire, aren't they, St Helens? They're doing everything.
Great
That
ball.
is a beautiful pass.
Cunningham to Vinnie Anderson, and St Helens have a 10-0 lead on a ground that's never really been that kind to them. But Cunningham just opened them up then. And Vinnie Anderson shot through the gap. It's gone very quiet at Odsal.
Certainly has. A lot of people thought the players may have sulked when Ian Millwood was left the club, but it doesn't look that way, does it? Beautiful pass. Look how they used the central man coming in first, as though he was going to receive it. Anderson then comes on the angle. Well, what a game this fella's having, and what a game from the hooker. Kieran Cunningham is creating all sorts of trouble for this Bradford defence. He's going one way outside. They're using the dummy runners. They have really just thrown everything at them, and it's paying off.
Vinnie Anderson scored a vital try against Leeds last week. Daniel Anderson gave him his NRL debut for the New Zealand Warriors against Cronulla 3 years ago. And here he is now, Vinnie Anderson, and there is his namesake Daniel. And what a start St Helens have made to this match. The only win here 2 years ago, but it was 35-0. Their first ever Super League away win at Bradford came at Valley Parade, August 2002, 50 points to 22. Big wins whenever they have been victorious in this part of the world, and the St Helens fans delighted with what they've seen so far. This from Long for a 12-0 lead. Ronnie Lawton's not waving to his relatives at home, by the way. He's just calling time back on. And Long has added the extras. It's 12 points to 0. A fantastic start for St Helens, Tony Smith.
Sure is. We just saw what St Helens can do. They diffused the bomb there in their own area, threw it out to the 20 metres, away they go. No nonsense, right down to the other end and get a dropout themselves. And then another couple of dropouts, and that's just pressure. But all the attack down in Bradford's area is just all around the ruck area. They're really, Cunningham's turning the ball back inside, and they're testing out both sides of the ruck there for Bradford, and they've come up with a couple of good results there.
They have indeed, and Kieran Cunningham has been at the heartbeat of the 2 tries so far. This now is Aidy Gardner out to impress Brian Noble today, because he's in the Great Britain squad for the Tri-Nations, one of the newcomers. And here goes Cunningham again. He's having a wow of a game. And there is a problem here for Jamie Peacock. He's still staggering as he goes to get back into the defensive line as Fozzard drives the ball in again. Took a nasty bang then, the Bradford captain. Here's Cunningham, man of the moment, to Long, who will hoist a great kick. That's hanging. And Carl Price collects it. Oh,
he's in the in goal area. Yeah, it's diffused. Can't continue on. They can now.
With Carl Price again.
Beautiful work from the big winger. Definitely took it with both feet in the in-goal area. The official got it absolutely spot on. But Bradford have to get this defence sorted out. They've given away a stupid penalty. Gets through a lot of work. There's a second rower, Lee Gilmore. He was fantastic last week against Leeds. He just tackled everything inside. But that is a silly penalty to give away. There's the problem.
There's Leon Price being treated on the run. Here is a chance for Bradford then. They started this move 10 metres from the Saints line, and it's with Fielden. But St Helens know the danger that he will pose. And Robbie Paul is the dummy half. Here now, Deacon. Peacock seems to have recovered from the bang. Tallow with the tackle. Carl Price scampers in at dummy half. This now, Deacon. Oh, and Deacon through the dummy. Good job that Wellens was there. And who else? It was Vinnie Anderson who got an important tackle, and Deacon is hurt. He manages though to play the ball to Carl Pratt. Here is Yestin Harris. Now Robbie Paul. Robbie Paul halted 2.5 metres short of the line again. Pratt once more. On the charge came Big Joe, and Vangenaar halted by 4 St Helens jerseys.
Boy, was he moving. That was great defence.
This is the last tackle, and Harris will float the ball wide. And Reardon is in. Bradford get the first try for them. And that's what they needed at the midway point of this first half. Stuart Reardon with the try. And this wonderful run this young fellow's having. Before tonight, a try in 5 of his last 6. And he's come up trumps again for Brian Noble and the Bradford Bulls.
All came about with a big run there from Joe Vangenaar that pulled in the defence. The penalty was given away from Gilmore, gave them the impetus to move forward. And then they just did the link. Simple, but effective. You can see there that Adrian Gardner was left with 2-on-1. Nothing he could do about it. And one of the very, very classy players that I think for Great Britain is this fella, Stuart Reardon. Just gets about his job, so nonchalant, doesn't celebrate, doesn't get too excited, because he knows he has a job to do there, and that is score tries, and that was a beauty.
Well, Stuart Reardon scored 3 tries actually in a 64-16 win last September against St Helens here. And he is so important to Brian Noble because he's also played centre and full-back in 2005. And it's going to be Paul Deacon, who is recovered from that knock he took just a few minutes ago. It looked for the moment that Easton Harris was going to take the kick at goal, but instead it's Deacon who said, I'm fit enough, I'll take this pot shot, and this to bring Bradford back within 6 points of the Saints. And he's missed it. Well, Deacon normally kicks those for fun, even way out on the wing, but not tonight. Bradford 4, Saints 12.
If it's one way to beat a sliding defence, is very quick hands. It only took 2 passes until the final one, and he knew he'd got a vital 4, but that is a bad mass. This is where Paul Deacon gets injured. Wellens tried his best to try to drag the ball away. Probably just heard him grunt with the pain.
Eddie, you know you're watching a high-quality game when it can flow from end to end as quickly as this one has today. Don't forget that whole attacking raid from Bradford came about when Carl Price took a good kick just inside his in-goal area, and the speed with which the Bulls, with the aid of a penalty, got to the other end of the field just goes to show you what quality we're watching right now.
Absolutely, as I said right at the start of this match, these two have been the dominant forces of 10 seasons of Summer Rugby League. It's been really down to these two clubs so far. Leeds might have a say in what's to happen in the immediate future, but Saints and Bradford dominant and play like this, and that's the reason why. Harris directing operations, dummy half. That's Easton Harris. He finds Peacock.
But what a beautiful,
suddenly have a bit of confidence.
What a beautiful pass from the centre, Ben Harris, as well. There's a problem. There's a St Helens player down in back play. They're down to 12. They've gone for the ball.
And it's Hooper, and that kick from Harris sails out on the full. Easton Harris just putting too much umph behind that, and Jason Hooper needs some running repairs on the injury.
Doesn't look well at all.
Meanwhile, St Helens will carry on with young James Graham, who was the England Academy Tour captain to Australia and New Zealand last year. And he is playing very well in Super League these days. Long. Good movement from Gilmore, great strength also. Well, he'll be up for a big game, Lee Gilmore, because of course he had 86 appearances for the Bulls, won a cup with them in 2003. This is Paul Wellens.
Talking about bringing youngsters through, there's an old saying, Eddie, if they're good enough, it doesn't matter what age they are, and certainly James Graham is doing a very good job.
Sean Long. Last tackle here for St Helens. Cunningham and Wilkin. Dabs the ball down the line. Leon Price decided to defuse that.
Well, actually, he's been defending at the fullback role during that set for Bradford. Robbie Paul went out to left centre, and I suppose there's just interchanging those two players with Brian Noble, because Leon Price, wherever he goes, tends to be dangerous if he can put the ball in his hands. And you know, very often at the end of a game, it's the fullback who's carried the ball more than anybody else on the field nowadays.
Leon Price took a bang in that movement there. Here is Big Joe Vangenaar.
He's in a lot of trouble. Leon Price looks as though he's coming off. Parker looks as though he's going to take his place as the big fella limps towards the touchline. He looks in a lot of trouble, doesn't he?
They're on halfway. Yes, Leon Price has moved out to the wing. Parker has come on. This is Deacon. Great run. And here is Harris, who dabs the ball over the top, but Wellens reads the script. Parker, incidentally, has replaced Stuart Fielden. That won't go down well with Mr. Fielden. He likes to play the full 80 minutes, but he's been pulled off by Brian Noble here after 26.
I think Brian realises that he's just got to arrest the big fella. You know, maybe 2-3 seasons ago, Stuart Fielden, he could do the 80.
Wilkin. Lyon.
Oh,
So close.
that should have been a try.
So close. Darren Albert just couldn't pluck that ball out of the air.
Do you know, this guy's a freak.
Lyon, you mean?
Jamie Lyon is absolutely superb with his passing. But you can't call him a freak if he knocks on, Eddie.
Darren Albert dropping the ball. 16 tries, top of the charts. And a new 2-year deal in the bank, by the way, for Darren Albert. He'll be around for a little bit longer yet at St Helens. Here is Robbie Paul. Goes wide and finds Ben Harris.
I've been impressed with the way that Bradford have dug deep. Got back well and truly into this game. They were knocked out of their stride with 2 quick tries, Wilkin and Anderson, but they really have fought their way back in. Very constructive. They are not panicking.
Here's Rob Parker. Parker, who missed the match against Hull last week because he became a dad. Peacock on an angled run. Support arrives from Justin Harris. It comes wide on the bounce to big Carl Price. The 18-year-old with the confidence to take them on, but halted 6 metres short of the line. Brother Leon is the dummy half. Back it comes to Paul Deacon. Oh, great defence. And he lost the ball, Deacon, under the challenge from Hooper. And Lyon is coat-hangered there by Leon Price.
That he could get sent off for this. That, he knew exactly what he was doing. That was not a reaction. That was sheer frustration, and I think Brian Noble realises it. I think Leon Price could be in a bit of trouble here. Bang! That is a bad one. That is sending off material. When you face home and he steps you, yes, he comes in from the side. He knows exactly what he's going to do here. Bang! Lines him up and he gets him.
He's gone to his back pocket.
That's red card, Eddie.
It is a red card for Leon Price. Leon Price sent off for this. And the referee had a look at the card colour and brandished the red, and Bradford are up against it now.
And fair play to the official Ronnie Lawton there, because that was bad. As I mentioned, Eddie, if you front on, you're facing and someone steps, you can get away with it, say it was just a reaction, sir, but it wasn't.
Well, St Helens now have knocked on, and Robbie Paul finds Carl Pratt, finds Justin Harris, who in turn gets it away to Stuart Reardon.
Eddie, teams have very often recorded their best ever victory when they're down to 12 men. And the chance really here now for Bradford is whether they can rise to that occasion. Sometimes it inspires the players when they know they're really a man down and they try that 10% harder, and maybe as well sometimes a team with 30 men, perhaps subconsciously they can relax, thinking that they should go on to win the game easily. It's as though it's fired up the balls in this set.
It looks as though it does, and Phil Clark knows what he's talking about. If memory serves, you were in the Great Britain side that beat the Australians when Sean Edwards was sent off at Wembley.
It was at a similar point in the game as well, wasn't it? I mean, we were fortunate that day. Jonathan Davis scored one of the best tries of all time, but Bradford, they'll need a few tries if they're going to come from behind to win.
And Carl Pratt asking the touch judge about the use of an elbow then by Jamie Lyon, who thankfully is fit enough to carry on and play on in this match after that high tackle from Leon Price that has earned him the red card.
And talking about that, my memory serves me, Eddie, the Sean Edwards one, that was a coat hanger as well.
Sean Long. Back on the inside it comes, and Mauri Fasavalou on the charge. He has got Gilmore in support, and Lee Gilmore will touch down behind the sticks for St Helens, who have got the chance here to take a stranglehold on this game now. And not only that, close to within 2 points again of the Leeds Rhinos at the top of the table.
Well, this was down to just poor defence. Simple pass on the inside. You can see Peacock going very high. You can't do that against such a big man. You've got to make sure you go for the legs. They failed to do that. Neat little inside pass, just simple. Very rare you see a top quality player just pushed away with so much ease. But when you do that, you're standing up, you get off balance. They won't be able to do that if you go for the legs. Failed to do it. Gilmore gets the 4. The Bulls are in trouble.
Sweet moment for Lee Gilmore, that. Another man in the Great Britain squad. Interestingly enough, of course. They're cruel rugby league fans, aren't they? Interestingly enough about Lee Gilmore, Brian Noble dispensed with his services here at Odsal. but he has bounced back. Gilmore, and he's in Brian Noble's 40-man Tri-Nation squad, as is Sean Long, who adds the extras. And St Helens with a 14-point advantage.
There it is for all to see. Go high and you'll just get pushed off balance. Kept his nerve. And Gilmore, he's having a great game. Gave away a silly penalty early on that allowed the Bulls to maybe get back into this game. He's repaid his coach in full.
Eddie, I think that the missed tackles and the fact that they're down to 12 men hasn't been the biggest problem for the last 15 minutes. It's been their inability to put any pressure on St Helens with any of their kicks. I mean, you have to compliment it's great pressure on the kicker, but really now for 10-15 minutes they haven't got a quality kicking, and really you can't afford to do that at this level.
The big thing for Brian Noble also is to try to get to his players to understand, look, don't look now for excuses, saying, well, he shouldn't have been sent off or whatever. They've got to concentrate. I was praising them by the fact that they gave away 2 silly tries early. They fought their way back, and that's what they've got to do now. They've got to show a lot of grit and determination.
James Roby's come on, and this young man is very dangerous, and that's a great ball, but that isn't. But it's going to be play on.
Oh, he's got to be offside. He can't. I thought for one moment.
No, he's not given the offside. He's got to knock on out of this. The signal's knock on, and it's a scrum. Bradford's head and feed.
Well, it certainly was a knock on, but he was offside. That's okay, but watch Lyon, he'll come in. Yeah, gets it, bump, knocks it back. Welland's in front. Well, they're splitting them apart, aren't they? They're in awful sorts of strife. Bradford getting their defence sorted out.
Sometimes unfair, isn't it, when Hyam comes on to replace Cunningham? Well, they've done a similar ploy with bringing James Roby on, and his pace, Steve-O, when he runs from dummy half, created that problem.
He's a quality player, Phil, you know that.
St Helens ahead then, 18 points to 4, and Bradford down to 12 men. We've seen only the third sending off of Super League 10 in 2005 here. David Solomona marched for Wakefield against Huddersfield, and Oliver Wilkes marched for Lee against Huddersfield on Sky Sports in round 1.
Again, just sheer desperation at times. I mentioned the fact that the second rower, Lee Gilmore, had done it. Now we see the big centre, Willie Tallow. Oh, they failed to find touch. Well, what can you say?
You don't want to be making mistakes like that when you're a player down. You just got to make sure of all those little things. You know, it's going to be interesting for Brian Noble with his rotation of his forwards now, and how they're going to cope with being a man down. It's really crucial for them. But you know, the times that they have challenged St Helens, it's been when they've thrown the ball wide out down the. There's a mistake there again down that wing, but. It's when they've thrown the ball wide out to St Helens' left-hand side. They've challenged them a few times there. I think they've got to chance their arm a bit. I know it's difficult when you're a man down, but that's what needs to happen here today.
Tony, we've just seen there St Helens are leading 18-4. Would you like your centre, like Jamie Lyon, to really risk putting the ball on? Surely you'd be looking towards a kick and getting yourself in a good position.
That's the type of player Jamie is. He's an attacking player.
Another penalty here.
He's gone for 10.
Yellow card, Willie Tallow.
He's an attacking player, Steve-O. You know, he doesn't die wondering. There's quite a lot of errors around Jamie. He is spectacular, but you know, you encourage that as a coach at times too, and particularly with this scoreline. You know, I think it's important for them to keep playing and not relax, like you were saying.
Well, Bradford looking to get something here now, because suddenly it's 12 against 12 with Willie Tallow in the sin bin for 10 minutes, and Harris will try and jink his way through the defence, but Roby stood there strong, and so too did Maori Fasavalu. Deacon gets the ball away to Peacock, and Peacock misses, or they miss Peacock 3 times, then they get him. Again it was Roby. This is Carl Pratt, and a chance here for Brett Ferris. Pratt will come down the short side, now he'll turn 360 and find Easton Harris. It's opened up for Harris. Great tackle. James Graham. Vanganar. Oh, off the shoulder of Deacon. Will be picked up by Parker on the last dab towards the in-goal area. And St Helens really, they defended that with ease.
Well, they just got it all mixed up, didn't they, Bradford? It wasn't the best pass. Should have been to somebody there that could control the kicking. The last thing you want, Brian Noble wants, is Rob Parker to be in a position to put a kick in like that.
Yeah, that's true, Tony Smith. You don't really want your prop forwards to put kicks in, do you? I was thinking there of Ryan Bailey on Friday night.
Yeah, he's out of the front rowers union. They're not happy with him over there, some of the other front rowers. But no, it was down to a bad catch or a bad pass there from Deacon. Once again, you need to be really spot on in these sort of...
Long cuts them up, and that looked a little forward.
Certainly did. They got away with it. Touch judge didn't help.
And Roby fires the ball to Albert, who flicks it over his shoulder to Lyon, who slings it in field to Long, but it goes through Sean Long's legs and is picked up by Mauri Fasavalou. Oh, and they were thinking about the interception then, Ben Harris. It's a right schmozzle over there.
Hell of a bit of turnover. He's got the best game, Adrian Gardner. Sheer panic. I'm sure that both sides will have a bit of a talking to by their coaches, Brian Noble, Daniel Anderson.
This is Robbie Paul now. It's calmed down a bit, Tony. Do you want to finish your point?
I've forgotten what it was by now. There's so much action going on here already. It's great. They're going from one end to the other. It's really... There's a bit of contrast in the way that they're doing it as well, but St Helens are really no nonsense in their own area. I know we like to see them throw the ball around, but quite often they're very simple in getting out of their own area. It's down the other end that they really chance their arm.
This is Ben Harris. And Harris halted by Gardner. Reardon escapes one tackle. Fasavalou there quickly, and Gilmore over the top roughly. Deacon, Peacock will drive it in, flicks the pass to Bradford. Good hands from Bradford here. It's with Ferris, back on the inside to Yestin Harris, back over the top to Ferris. Only 19 years of age.
We can do that from Jason Hooper. When a youngster makes an error, okay, and Jason Hooper, when he was younger, would have made quite a few. And well done, the official.
Yes, he's with you, Ronnie Lawton. He wants Jason Hooper to cut that out.
Well, it's such a great game, Eddie. We don't have to, delve into other sports that they do all the time. This... Oh, that's ridiculous. Grow up.
Cunningham's waiting to return for St Helens as this scrum forms. Long is taking his time.
I'm not surprised because St Helens will be quite happy.
Yes, they have the man in the sin bin. Bradford, of course, with the man sent off, Leon Price.
You know they'll have the advantage soon after the restart. And I just get the impression that Anderson would have, Daniel, that is the coach, would have got the message out and said, listen, let's just take it nice and steady. Messing around. He has been consistent.
Well, he's not shy of blowing the whistle, Ronnie Lawton.
And he's told them, and you can see there quite clearly, this was something that the coach has got together and said, stop it. And when the referee stops it, then there's nothing that the coach can do about it.
Fozzard, straight at Deacon. There have been 11 penalties. Bradford have had 7 of them so far. This is Darren Albert, and Albert has got Wilkin. It's a second try for Wilkin. Yes, it is. I think momentum took him home. Yep. The referee agrees. Just popped it down over the line as he was being wrestled by Carl Price and John Wilkin. Well, his second try of the night, and what a turnaround in fortunes when you look back 18 months or so.
Put this down. This is the penalty. No doubt about it. Look at that. He's got his hand right on the ball. Nothing that Gilmore could do. But watch again the quality of this centre, Jamie Lyon. The body language looked as though he was going to take it on his own. Slipped it back on the inside to Darren Albert. And what a good effort there from Wilkin. Try number 2. He knew that post was coming. The way he holds the ball with one hand, Lyon, he knew that post was coming to him, but he made sure he got the 4 before he hit it. You little beauty. Saints are on fire just before the break.
Personnel might change off the field, but nothing alters on the field for St Helens. John Wilkin with the try. He said he might have a key role to play in the absence of Paul Sculthorpe here tonight. And Long is bang in front. And it's going to be 24 points to 4. It is. And that's the half-time siren. Well, what a first half. There's so much to talk about. St Helens in complete control. They are ahead by 20 points. They have had Leon Price sent off, the Bradford Bulls, and roles reversed. Remember, Wilkins sent off on Easter Monday of 2004, and Bradford ran riot. And here tonight, St Helens could easily run on the sideline with the St Helens injured captain, Great Britain captain, of course, Paul Sculthorpe.
Pull that scoreboards, and given the fact that the opposition are down to 12, it's a pretty good position to be in.
It's a grateful start from the boys. You know, we've got to keep doing what we did right in the first half. Keep the game quick. I think we're blowing them away with offloads and support play. And, it's important that we keep doing that second half.
Is it a scoreline that surprises you?
No, definitely not. We know the ability in our team, and if we stick to what we do best and what wins us games, we'll score points.
12 men though can be dangerous. We've seen it so many times before when the side's down like that.
Yeah, it sometimes gives you that boost. We're 12 all at the moment anyway. We're willing to allow off for the next 4 minutes. So hopefully a good start, and and build on the start that we've had in the first half.
Just a quick word on this hamstring. Long term?
No, definitely not. I'll be playing next week. It was just a little tug on my muscle. Maybe something that previous what I've had. But I've had a scan there. Everything's completely clear. It's healed right, and I'll be there against Salford next week. Thanks. Cheers, Bill.
So we know that Paul Sculthorpe is in line to return next week at the Willows. That will be music to the ears of Carl Harrison and the Salford City Reds. It's 24-4 to St Helens here. They're in control of the match. Both sides down to 12 men for the moment anyway.
And they'll continue to do that, Eddie, the way that this Bradford defence is not moving up.
Long will fire it wide, and this is Wilkin on a hat-trick, finds Jamie Lyon, who busts through the tackle of Carl Pratt and finds the support from Long, and Sean Long has got the time to even improve the angle yet more for himself, and I think there will be a long way back for Bradford now.
And it's that man again, isn't it, out wide, at right centre, Jamie Lyon. He's such a big bulk of a body, and again they paid the price. This time Pratt went high on him, and Long just scooted along the side. This is easy, and it always will be when you do these sort of things. No good having a second right when this fella's away. He's got plenty of pace as well. Great support play, and it is a very quiet Oxel at the moment.
That's the old look of Sean Long, and now we have the new look Sean Long, who has paid a visit to the barbers. I think he just caught a glimpse of himself there on the big screen behind those posts.
Well, he probably realises he's done the right thing then.
In your opinion?
I have quite a lot of opinions about hairstyles.
Oh, you've got quite a lot of opinions. You're absolutely right about that.
Especially yours.
You haven't had many hairstyles, though, have you?
At least mine's neat.
That was an ace trump from Mr. Clark. Oh, that's a poor kick from Long. That's not what you'd expect. He saw himself in the screen, and the old hairstyle must have put himself off. But who needs to kick goals when you're winning 28 points to 4? And Brian Noble, stern of face, because he knows this is the 8th home game for the Bulls this season. They're looking at a 4th defeat on this turf, which is almost unthinkable.
I think the sad thing will be if the players and Brian Noble start to think that the reason that they've lost is because they've lost a player. It would be wrong for them to say that, because St Helens, even at that point, before Leon Price was sent from the field of play, I thought St Helens had a total control of this game.
Do you reckon the difference, Steve, in that first half with the speed and athleticism? Whenever Saints made a break, there was a player quickly up in support and they capitalised on it, didn't they? If you look at all of the tries, I think the first 4 tries in the first half all came from back row forwards, and it was their speed to get on the end of breaks that really forced the tries.
Well, you're spot on, Phil, because mainly due to the fact that word break. And with Bradford going so high, you've got to get the legs. It's, you know, they're letting themselves down on the basics, Bradford.
Just to emphasise the point that Steve was making about the send-off of Leon Price, St Helens were actually leading at that point by 18 points to 4. So there should be no excuse that it's simply the one-man advantage that has led to this performance. But this big Bradford crowd are stunned. Indication there of the speed again, though. When Bradford did get the chance to go on the outside, Harry stepped back in because he just knows how quick St Helens are. It's very hard to go around St Helens. They're that quick a team. That ball came free in the tackle. How did it come free? It is a decision for Ronnie Lawton. He says it's a knock-on.
Yeah, but which way?
Well, Iestyn Harris says ours, meaning Bradford. Ronnie Lawton says St Helens.
Interesting. I thought that this was reefed away. 2-on-1. Vinnie Anderson certainly got the fingertips in there. I think they've been badly done to there, the Bulls.
Keep him in! Keep him in! It's out!
Certainly dragged 2-on-1, wasn't it? Should have been a penalty.
Lyon, oh, he's found another gap up the middle, and Carl Pratt has given the chase up, and Jamie Lyon goes over under the sticks for St Helens.
Well, they know what time it is, and this fella that scored the try will also know what time it is, because if there's any person out there that has earned himself a TikTok on the arm, it's this bloke. And poor defence yet again. The culprit is Carl Pratt yet again. 1-on-1, what a step. Sheer quality, full control. What a buy this fella has been.
It's great to see tries from scrums, isn't it? It shows the team's willing to attack from that position. And why wouldn't you with Lyon? Carl Pratt doesn't even get a hand on him, Steve. That is the quality there. Couldn't even get close enough to touch him. Never mind stop him. And as soon as there was daylight between them, he waved the white flag, Carl Pratt, didn't he?
Well, of course, and the difference being, of course, that Carl Pratt, inexperienced as a centre, has gone out wide and given him the opportunity to step. If it had left him the open run out wide, you've got a chance to get into him. But if you commit yourself on the left, leave it open on the right, they'll score.
Another 2 points to the St Helens total. They lead by 34 points to 4. And Jamie Lyon just cradles the football. He appears to be in love with it. This is a wonderful performance from St Helens' Tony Smith, albeit against the 12 men. Hang on, Tony, we're just not hearing you. I think we'll just turn a knob and up you come. Right, that's you now.
Whether it's 12 men or not, St Helens can do this, you know, to 13 men. They've got the ability to get on a roll like this. So you've got to feel a bit for Bradford here. Being a man down, certainly it makes it even harder, but, you know, this is the quality of St Helens when they're in full flow.
And they are in full flow here, and there is a problem though for them over on the far side. I think it's Adi Gardner who is down on his haunches over there, but they have the penalty, they have more ground, and they start 40 metres away from the Bradford line. Well, there is Gardner limping his way back into this attack. In fact, he might be limping his way off the field, and Carl Pratt immediately has been withdrawn by Brian Noble, but the Bulls are looking down the barrels of a fairly hefty scoreline against them, the way St Helens are playing, and they're in no mood to turn down the heat.
Operative word, that word turn, because that's what St Helens have done. They've taken it blindside, switched it back, run on the angle. They've had runners running off the ball, dummy runners here, there and everywhere, Shepherds.
Cunningham. And Cunningham is still going, looking to plonk the ball over the line. Good job that Parker got underneath him. Roby is the dummy half. Back it comes to Long. Here's the kick crossfield, looking for Lyon. Ball out.
Just a touch too long there.
Yes, on the full.
Well looked after as well by Carl Price. And I must say, if St Helens scored again pretty quickly, I think that Daniel Anderson will be looking to bring off the likes of Kieran Cunningham maybe, and even to the effect of picking off Sean Long. That's how confident they are of this game.
Bradford get a penalty for offside.
On your line. 10 metres lead.
It's difficult to see where a revival is going to come from. There's a lot of time remaining.
Come on, here. Hold here.
St Helens are so dominant.
Well, they've thrown Paul Deacon into the dummy half situation now to try to, resurrect something. At least he's got a bit of pace.
Here we are, buddy.
But has he got enough to make sure he makes the 1 and 2 markers work hard? But I'm afraid at the moment it's all very, very bash and barge by the Bulls.
Deacon, back it comes to Robbie Paul, and Ben Harris loses it forward. It's not going right for Brian Noble.
Well, these are chances you've got to take. He was well looked after. Nice little dummy. But he's a big man, Willie Tellau. Very big indeed. Applied the pressure. He'll learn though. It has not been a good day at the office. Phil Clark for Bradford Bulls. It has for this fella, Daniel Anderson.
I bet Brian Noble wishes he could Sky Plus and skip forward, couldn't he, for 30 minutes here now. Fast forward the next 30 minutes, because it probably won't teach him anything really for the rest of the season. He knows that this game's well and truly gone. They had 2 chances, didn't they, at half-time, Slynn and Nunn. I guess he probably talked his team into hanging on to that slim chance of a comeback, but the way that St Helens have begun the game in the opening 10 minutes here has just blown them away. And really, they have patches throughout the season, the Saints side, when they do look the best, clearly the best side in this country, and at present they're going through one of those patches again.
Yes, it's a purple patch for them. I bet also, by the way, this will be music to the ears of the Warrington players and officials who are no doubt on the bus and on the way home from Huddersfield. Look at this, Cunningham to Long, and Long just turning them inside out, and it goes wide to Jamie Lyon. He is in again. Lyon scores his second try. Music to the ears of Warrington, because this defeat for Bradford, as it surely will be now, means that Warrington are up to 3rd in the Super League table at the end of round 16. St Helens are 2nd, and they're breathing down the necks of Leeds.
Well, the Saints fans are saying easy, easy, and it is. The superb offload by Cunningham. But the amount of room that he allowed the hooker, and that was very poor indeed. This will be disappointing for not only the Bulls fans, but their coach, Brian Noble. Sean Long had all the time in the world, just kept the ball going, and it's a rout.
It is a rout.
This man's having the time of his life. But the way that Cunningham, we know his quality. You don't have to watch videotapes week in and week out to understand the danger that Kieran Cunningham can offer you when you're in a 1st and 2nd marker. It's not a shock move. You know exactly what he's going to do. And all he did was run in the angle, and 2 men went for him, and they couldn't stop him offloading.
It's only their 2nd away win at Odsal in Super League for St Helens. And even though we have got so much of this match remaining, I think we can say that with some confidence right now. St Helens, courtesy of the boot of Sean Long, add 2 more points to the total. It's 4 to Bradford. It's 40 to St Helens. The only thing that can take the shine off of St Helens day to day are injuries. Bill.
And that could be the case, because the only cloud in the blue sky for at the moment for the Saints is the fact that Darren Albert is sitting on the sidelines with what looks like a hamstring injury. He's got that iced up. Meanwhile, Jamie Lyon celebrating another try then. The first one, you noticed a little rockabye baby celebration afterwards, and I understand that that's a tribute to his newborn son Riley, back home in Australia, I think.
52.5 minutes gone. 40 points to St Helens, 4 to Bradford.
Oh, wonderful hit! And full credit to Gilmore. He got up and said, so what? He's tackled.
Reardon felt that, I'll tell you. Reardon made the tackle. He was the last to get up.
Gilmore said, OK.
Here they come again down that right-hand channel. This is Wellens. That's Vinnie Anderson. Now it's with Wilkin. A dab down the line, and that will trickle its way to touch.
I guess even with a score at 40-4, Eddie, Brian Noble learned one thing: you can see which players are just playing and which are still trying, and Stuart Reardon definitely came up into the latter of those categories. With very little to go, he really threw his body, didn't he, into that tackle. He's trying to lift. Very often a winger can come up with a big hit and lift his teammates because they really have gone flat.
Phil, I'd like to answer the question. Before the season started, Bradford made it quite clear that they were quite happy to release Stuart Reardon. Remember, they were in the market for Ellis. And what effect must that have on a player when he's made international recognition, he's up there with the best, and yet your own team says we're quite happy to let you go?
I guess it would upset any player, and the length of time it upsets them would vary from one to another. But from the games I've seen him play this year, he really has given 100% effort to the cause, and his team are going to have a chance here now to attack, but they really are flat at present.
They've had 4 successive grand finals to attend under Brian Noble, and they enjoyed a great win at Hull, of course, last Saturday.
That was high from Fozzard. Silly play. But it's 40 points to 4. I suspected it may have got a little bit lively. A lot of frustration, of course, running through the veins of this Bradford Bull outfit. And don't be surprised if Daniel Anderson says, "Come on, Fozzie, I think you might take a bit of a rest."
Well, Paul Anderson is waiting.
Your responsibility, keep your tackles down.
Of course, everything that is now a high shot by St Helens will be demanded a red card off the terraces.
But it's not needed. I mean, to be fair, I know he made contact with the shoulder, but he finished up into the face.
Well, a chance here for Bradford with Parker and Robbie Paul. Good movement. This is Ferris, who is a lively youngster. Brett Ferris, only 19 years of age, big future predicted. This is Robbie Paul. Nobody there though. No, there is now. This is Radford. Cunningham gets to him.
Ooh,
knock on, they're asking for a knock on.
Certainly lost it.
It's Yestin Harris. He gets it away under pressure from Gilmore. This is Peacock. Deacon waits dummy half. Parker's the runner.
That's a way to come onto a football. Good defence though, Fozzard going down. Something that Bradford haven't done. One going low, the other one trying to stop the ball.
Oh, Yestin Harris's pass was straight into the arms of John Wilkin, who is hunting his hat-trick. Oh, but he has got the ball away to Long, and he has got the ball wide to Lyon.
Oh, they bombed it.
No, they haven't. Vinnie Anderson finishes a flowing move. His second try. There were hat-tricks beckoning all over the show then. Jamie Lyon, John Wilkin. In the end, Vinnie Anderson gets on the verge of a hat-trick as well. And St Helens score yet another try. And there's Rob Parker, Jamie Peacock, still jogging back into the Bradford half of the field. It was so quick, that attack.
It certainly was, and the man that sent the pass out really has struggled since he came back from the rugby union ranks. It was well picked out. Full credit though to Carl Price. He tried everything, and St Helens tried to bomb a try. They were all there. Vinnie Anderson, he's had a fine game too. Pretty hard to find a poor player on this St Helens side in blue and white, but that was not the best from an international player of the standard from Yestin Harris. Good team spirit. They weren't greedy, but the most important fact was that whilst only Carl Price was trying to make it back, St Helens had the numbers. Embarrassing.
They've got the numbers on the scoreboard as well. It's all the fours at the minute. 4 playing 44. And this kick from Long. Well, 6 from 7 here tonight. 7 from 7 last week. His return game here last year, of course, after the long suspension, he kicked 4 goals. And he has added another here. 46-4.
And full credit to the new coach as well is that, remember last week we made the point, and it was confirmed by Daniel Anderson, that he did have a one-on-one with Sean Long, a private meeting, and then today he throws him out as the captain. What a master stroke. It certainly worked.
Ball was palmed back by Paul Wellens from the kick-off. St Helens have it. They went short, Bradford. Well, there is still over a quarter of this match remaining, and Long has been taken off the field along with Darren Albert. So it's a marathon, this, not a sprint, remember.
Bradford just can't get possession, Eddie. And when they do, they squandered it. They've given away an intercept. We often talk about the side gaining momentum.
Wonder if anyone up here would like to pick a number that St Helens will end up with, because it looks like it could be a big score.
What tends to happen though, Eddie, is that very often you can't maintain that intensity, and that's, I suppose, the challenge that Daniel Anderson might throw onto his team now. Can we still play at that pace for the next 20 minutes? It appears whenever they have the ball and when they don't, they're running faster than their opposition for every part of the game, and if they can maintain that, then this is 66 points at least.
Well, Phil, I'm with you. It is difficult because, you know, we talk about the likes of Kieran Cunningham and Sean Long. They have had their problems with injuries. 46-4, the game's won. You know, give them a rest. Give the youngsters out there, you know,
you can only give four a rest, though, can't you, Steve-O?
Sorry?
You can only give four players a rest.
Yeah, I realise that, but you know, they're so important to the side.
Harris with the kick out on the full. They'll bring it back. There are more points beckoning for St Helens here.
It's gone from bad to worse, and there you see, they really are a defeated outfit.
That's a better tackle, though, from Ben Harris on Mark Edmondson.
He's hurt as well as Edmondson. Really felt that.
James Roby to Vinnie Anderson. Roby again. One thing about St Helens, though, every player out there will be out to impress the new man. He's only been there a fortnight, Daniel Anderson, and they all want to play in this team. There he is, and what a job he has done over the past fortnight. He really has relit the flame. They look very flat. They're not flat anymore. That's Gardner with the try.
Looks like Jamie Peacock picked up an injury there, trying to prevent it. So sit back, go and make a cup of tea, because if you're a Saints fan, you're going to enjoy this. They're just standing around, I'm sorry to say. Lack of enthusiasm. It's very difficult when you know you're on the end of a real drubbing. And you often wonder yourself, why on earth will you have to have the big second row of Jamie Peacock trying to prevent this guy scoring the try? Just shows you this disorganisation that they've had. And I'm with you, Eddie, and I made that point, that they cannot blame the fact that they lost Leon Price being sent off. They had this game well and truly won.
And the Bradford supporters are beginning to make their way for the exits. A lot of them have seen enough. And Jason Hooper is the latest man to kick a goal here for St Helens, he hopes. Long on the bench, of course. 9 tries St Helens have scored. You would never have predicted this at the start of the match, and Bradford will look to the fact that they are playing with 12 men for the majority of the game, but as we said, it was 18-4 to St Helens when Leon Price took the early bath. He's just hit the post then, Hooper. There's a great groan from the St Helens supporters. There won't be now, because it's 50 points to 4 as Kieran Cunningham comes off. The 9th change made by Daniel Anderson. Tony Smith, this is an impressive St Helens showing tonight.
Yeah, it sure is. And, you know, just answered Steve over there on the earlier comment about will they let up. You know, it's not like St Helens to let up. When they smell blood, they go for it. They really go for the jugular. But even Kieran Cunningham on that last kick pressure, you know, he went out there and forced an error off Justin Harris. That's the commitment that they've got right to the end. And, you know, now he gets a well-earned rest. Yes, it can affect you when you make some subs. It, you know, can make some disjointed efforts here now that you've got Long off and now that you've got Cunningham. So the point scoring could go down, but not in this mood, I don't think so.
And not with this fella on the field, Jamie Lyon, and he has got support with him, and this is Graham, and momentum takes him over, does it? No, just held up. The referee's going to have a look at it.
Well, if we play the ball.
He heard the roar from the St Helens supporters.
Well, Jamie Lyon has just got up to James Graham and given him a right rollicking and said you had Vinnie Anderson on the inside. Well, it just confirms hasn't got it down, no doubt about it. This is no try, but it just confirms what Tony Smith was saying, is that it's very difficult to ease up. St. Helens do go for the jugular, and the way that Jamie Lyons said, you had someone on the inside, you should have passed.
I think James Graham's referred to him as just getting up to play the ball, but referee thought maybe he better hand it on to the video referee to take another look. No try. It's fourth tackle to St. Helens, and he wasn't held up over the line, so it starts from where it finished. This now is Mark Edmondson. He's missed the last two, the England A international. Flicks the pass away. It was a bit wild, and Reardon picks it up for Bradford. Well, Reardon has earned his spurs tonight.
He certainly has. Sadly, a lot of his colleagues have not lived up to it, but that's a good break.
Brad Myers makes a break. He's a little outnumbered and he lost the ball, and it was stolen one-on-one. It's play on.
Yep.
Mauri Fasavalou has it for St. Helens.
Well, good work here, Brad Myers.
One-on-one, he dropped it.
Oh, I think it was reefed out. Oh, the young kid's away.
Roby will not be denied here. And Roby over under the sticks. A developing talent, this young man. And the boos are coming from the Bradford supporters. The cheers from the St. Helens fans. 54 points to 4. Kick to come. Try number 10 you're watching here.
Amazing, isn't it? Brad Myers made a break, got them within 20 metres of the Saints line, then made the error. And the major factor was that there was no support for Brad Myers, and then when the ball was turned over, there was no defence either. I would not like to be in the dressing room when the final hooter goes, and a Mr. Noble, there he is, walks in. Most people perhaps would say, and we have as our guest Tony Smith, who once said at St. Helens, it's one of those things, just a bad day at the office. What would you say, Tony Smith, if, say, it were Leeds at the end of this?
You certainly don't want it to happen to you again. You try and learn some lessons from it.
Well, you did, didn't you? Because when St. Helens came to Headingley, you won 70 points to 0, if I remember.
Yeah, we turned it around, and you know that could have happened to us last week in some respects. Saints, you know, got in a mood, but we were able to fight back, and it showed a lot of, you know, a lot of effort by our guys to stop that. Because once that roll starts, I've said many times that it's just so hard to stop. But, you know, when you've got 12 men, it makes it even more difficult. You know, you really feel for people on a day like this. Most people like to see close games, unless you're a St. Helens supporter today.
Oh, they'll be enjoying every minute of this, and Jamie Lyon has just added the points to the Roby try, so it's now 56 points to 4.
Don't know St. Helens fans deserve it, because they've travelled all the way to Bradford and they've seen their side embarrassed on one or two occasions here in the last few years. They've stuck with them though, haven't they? They carried on through the good times and the bad, and they've seen a remarkable effort here from the team. What about that catch? Oh, he's just showing off with those skills now.
Yes, he is. And he just patted it inside to Mauri Fasavalou. But he's got everything, Jamie Lyon, hasn't he?
He certainly has. He's a quality player, world class. But I know I keep bringing it up to you, Eddie, and I know you look at me in total amazement when I say maybe we should start looking at that rule that we brought back about, you know, if you have conceded the try, then you should get the ball back. Rather than, you know, the opposition, we've seen it today, Bradford can't get the football, they kick off, St. Helens score. Maybe we should bring that back in.
Well, we tried it, didn't we? And it was judged not to be a great success.
By whom, though? The coaches.
The powers that be.
Well, the coaches have the power.
This is Robbie Paul for Bradford. And, well, Bradford supporters still have over a quarter of an hour of this to endure.
The hardest thing for us as commentators is how do you assess it? You know, is it really poor defence that's making sense? St. Helens have created some beautiful tries tonight.
Well, it's been one-way traffic.
That's
from the
what I'm
start.
saying. It's very hard to analyse it.
Even when they were 13 men aside,
yeah.
Phil Clark St Helens was still pretty impressive.
I think the horse bolted after about 20 minutes. You know, they scored 3 tries in the first 20 minutes, and after that the mood was set. Really, there was no way that Bradford were going to come back. And the difficult thing about our sport is that when you are behind, very often you can look as though you're actually going backwards because you try that bit harder to move the ball around. Here's a high shot now. Penalty for Bradford. I've no doubt they're still trying out there, but it's difficult, very, very difficult now.
Well, I just wonder how, if you were Brian Noble, Tony Smith, how would you assess this at the end? I know that you had a similar situation against St Helens last year, but how do you assess a scoreline like this on your own turf?
They keep reminding me about that game. I'm just getting over it now. No, you just got to analyse it, and you go home, and you probably have a pretty quiet night, everybody, and you get up the next day and you start hard work again for next week, and you analyse it as you would when you have a good win.
Look at this. Look at Jamie Lyon. I mean, everything is coming off for him tonight. He knocks on, but then he diffuses the knock on by catching the ball. I mean, it's just one of those days for Saints, isn't it? Whatever they're touching today turns to gold.
Yeah, they have days like that, and I think every team does. And you know, Bradford have come off a real solid performance last week. They had a really good day too, and they'll have many more. So you know, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not nice while it happens, but you soon get back into the ring and start fighting again. And I'm sure Brian will do that with his troops. It's a bad day, but it's only one day.
You don't blow your top.
It's only one day. You get plenty more chances in this competition.
The worrying thing for Bradford, as well as the scoreline today, is that it's the third time this year that they have conceded on their own pitch here at Odsal 40 points or more.
Yeah, it's not the fortress, is it, that it used to be.
And they were saying in the press this morning that, I think it was Joe Vangenaar was quoted, I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, it was.
There was Vangenaar said, let's get back to Fortress Odsal. Yep. Well, the walls are tumbling down at the minute. Reardon was high
again. Well, Fozzard is really on the tightrope. I'm afraid if I was Daniel Anderson, I'd be taking this big fella off and saying, you've done your job. He's been impressive as well, Daniel Anderson. Vinnie Anderson. Oh, it's...
You've got too many Andersons, Steve. There's another one.
Hans Christian, you throw him in, it doesn't matter. Either way, all of them
it's
done
been
well,
impressive. The Anderson clan has done well today.
It certainly has.
Yeah, just looking round, I don't think Pamela's here, Steve-O.
Oh, I would have seen her if she had. Pete, don't worry.
Isn't she the physio from Bradford?
I mean, you look at that, and it's all been about power, hasn't it? Super power.
Here comes the Saints again, talking of superpower. They're flooding forward, and Wellens! Oh!
Knocked off.
Fozzard wanted a try. Wellens wanted to give him a try, and he apologises immediately.
Well, they don't come all that often when you've raced downfield as a prop forward. Full credit, they're trying to go back, and Fozzard says, sorry, mate. Well, it's a bonus for them.
Keep him back. Mark.
She looks like him.
Keep him in.
I don't think her name is Pamela.
Here come Bradford to try and rescue something from this match.
Hold here, Foz. Hold here.
I suppose Daniel Anderson will have said to St Helens now, look, just keep Bradford down to the one score. That will be the triumph that he'll be looking for, because the match has been won for a long time.
Yeah, it certainly has, and that's the reason why so many of these ardent Bulls supporters are leaving the ground already. I think the horrific stats that Brian Noble will have to look at tomorrow, or probably even tonight, he'll be that upset, is the lack of completion rate that Bradford have done in the second half.
It wasn't crash hot in the first either.
Look,
here's Fielden. Back to Robbie Paul, over the top to Brad Myers. Let's just see how this develops. Myers with a good run. Couldn't get the ball away though to Carl Price down that left-hand side. There he is at dummy half. It's with Deacon. This is the last tackle. Looking for Reardon out wide. Gardner's underneath it. Gardner claims it, but they're going to get a second set of 6 here, Bradford. Reardon has earned his stripes. Look, we were 10 minutes late going to Dave Hadfield for the man of the match views at the start of the match. Let's go 10 minutes early because I think it's all wrapped up. Who's got the watch, Dave?
Yes, that evens it up, Eddie. Bit spoiled for choice, and it's all a bit distorted by the sending off. We thought the whole of the back three of the pack had been excellent for Saints. Kieran Cunningham, even when it was 13 against 13, they couldn't control him. But the man we've gone for, he's ran riot as the game's gone on. Jamie Lyon.
Don't think there'll be anyone disputing that. Jamie Lyon is the man of the match, and Jamie Lyon will go home with the Tissot watch. And look what St Helens supporters think about that.
It's been a classic display from the Australian.
He's a classic player, isn't he? He's an absolutely outstanding rugby league footballer.
He's got so much balance and you know, upper body strength and the ability to take on a man.
Peacock, and he gets the ball away to Deacon, who in turn gives it to Lynch. On it goes to Bradford. St Helens are defending their line as if it's 6-4. Robbie Paul, Carl Pratt to the in-goal area, and Gardner allows it to run dead in goal. Just 7.5 minutes to go. Any further thoughts, gentlemen? Tony Smith?
Yeah, just back to that comment earlier, Steve, when Jamie had thrown a couple of passes that were put down and you said, you know, do you encourage your centres to keep pushing passes like that? Well, yes, you know, and this is why. You encourage them when they got class like this. You know, if you had have told Jamie to restrict his decisions and play a bit more conservative, you may not have seen the scoreline here tonight. That's the way it can affect them. So, you know, you want to encourage them to use their skills. Yes, sometimes they're going to make mistakes, but
yeah,
over a period of time, it comes good for them.
And you know, the most amazing thing, we shouldn't take any notice of rumours. We know that, but sometimes they could be near the truth. Who knows? But when Ian Millwood left St Helens, there was talk about that Jamie Lyon would want to go with him wherever he went. That was the big... Well, I think that Jamie Lyon has proved to his new coach that he wants to play 100%. He's shown it tonight.
I'm not sure about those rumours. I know Daniel's got a great relationship with Jamie. He coached him at Parramatta. You know, they get on really, really well, and there he is having a well-earned rest.
He is having a well-earned rest as St Helens get themselves on the back foot, conceding a penalty to the Bulls. But you know, this fixture will evoke painful memories for Saints and their supporters. Remember, of course, the schmozzle that was caused at Easter Monday of 2004, but also the scene of one of their best wins last year in the cup tie, and this is certainly going to be one of their best wins of 2005. There is no doubt about that. And Robbie Paul nearly fumbled it then. St Helens are desperate to keep Bradford out.
Well, that's a game that they've only got left. That's what the message would have gone out from their coach, saying it is an extra bonus, forget about the scoreline. As far as they're concerned, it's 0-0.
Peacock, and Peacock trying to muscle his way over but can't. Last tackle here. St Helens have withstood this attack. It's with Carl Pratt, now it's with Paul Deacon. The kick out wide. Gardner had stood back deep to come and try and claim this, which he does, and he's away. The St Helens winger, and he's quick as well. Gardner against Robbie Paul. Gardner, it's Vinnie Anderson, my apologies. Vinnie Anderson, it's a hat-trick. Vinnie Anderson gets the hat-trick. He was stood right on the corner then, the raised corner, as that kick came across field from Bradford. Looked all the world like it was Eddie Gardner who's just behind him, but it wasn't, it was Vinnie Anderson. There he is.
What a take. Off he went. He knew he had the speed. This is a tremendous effort.
He's as quick as Gardner, isn't he?
Any youngster watching, halfway through that run, he was carrying the ball in his left hand. He knew that the cover was coming across to him. He transferred the ball to his right so that he could fend off with his left. And that's the reason why he scored the try. Okay, he took the intercept. It's a happy camp down there.
What about that for a bench? Albert, Long, Cunningham, Lyon, Hyam is there. And Keith Mason as well. And they're looking at themselves on the big screen. They've had a good day, haven't they, the Saints?
Well, there's only Bill Arthur not smiling.
There they are.
They're enjoying this, and so is this fella. What a run.
Well, Vinnie Anderson, and we've mentioned Paul Anderson, we've mentioned Pamela Anderson, but the man who is going to take great credit and great pleasure from this is the St Helens coach, Daniel Anderson. Took on and beat Leeds last Friday, has taken on and beaten Bradford at Odsal here tonight in grand style. What a start to his coaching career in the Super League. Hooper has missed with the kick. All right, he inherited the team that's lying second in the table. They still are second in the table, but Leeds and Bradford, what a start. 2 out of 2, 100% in the Super League. The only coach to be 100%.
What do they say? Things
in
can
the
only
Super
get
League
worse
this year.
then for him.
Yes, things can only get worse. But in this mood, I don't think they will.
Eddie, any team who can put a back row forward onto the right wing and score a length of the field try really has something that can trouble anybody in the competition. I know that's an obvious statement, but do you know what I mean? The speed that they have is absolutely incredible. The fact he could go that far, wonderful catch, and the length of the field run. Speed really does win the big games, and they have it in abundance.
And just to compound Daniel Anderson's glee and to compound Bradford's misery, the Bulls today have conceded 60 points in the Super League for the first time ever.
Hold it, Jamie. Jamie. Okay.
Well, they were in tears when Ian Millwood left, and now they're singing There's Only One Daniel Anderson. Memories are very short in sport, and the fact that Ian Millwood has gone to Wigan, it doesn't really cut much ice with these fellas anymore. But Ian Millwood has to bring Wigan to St Helens a couple of times this season. There's one in the Cup in a few weeks' time, and there's massive matches in the Super League. This is Gardner, no mistaking this time, 64-4. Phil Clark said it could be 66 for Saints, and the second try for Gardner means that the conversion could make it a day of clickety-click.
They're stunned for the Bradford fans, and even more than the supporters, so are the players. They're just doing what they want. They're even standing and offloading the football. Simple. Hasn't been a good experiment, I must say, putting Carl Pratt out there in the centres. I know that they've run out of troops, and they are down to 12 men, of course, which means that you'd always expect to get the overlap, but they're just running in and out. Look at that. How's that for a finish? Determination. You know, he never had one look to his right for the cover defence. He knew it was TRY. He had a shaky start.
He did, but this will help. It's an obvious thing to say. It will help St Helens points for and against.
It won't do Bradford any good.
No, it won't. I'm thinking of what's above St Helens at the top of the table. Can Jason Hooper make it? The magical 66 for Phil Clark. What a tipster Mr. Clark is. 66 for Saints, 4 for Bradford. Bradford are pleading for the final siren to get off this field and into the dressing room. Gardner with 2 tries. Have we lost count? We better get the abacus out to see how many tries the Saints have scored. It's the dozen. 12 tries. And there might be more. Paul Anderson, what a return to Odsal for him in the St Helens jersey.
It's going to be interesting, Eddie, how the crowd that are still here, the Bradford fans, of course, how are they going to respond to this? I don't think they're going to like it.
I'm sure they aren't. Here's Willie Tallau to the halfway line. It ceased being a contest midway through the first half.
Without a doubt, but the inability for Bradford to, you know, one man go low and the other one then try to stop the football. And even on that occasion there, no one really went snapping at the lower part of the legs.
Give Brian Noble credit, he's not hiding. He's stood there in front of the terrace here right the way through this match. He's enjoyed some great times here, and he will no doubt enjoy more. This has been a miserable afternoon for him.
Well, Fossard is running around all over the field saying,
and that's a knock-on by Graham.
Saying, I want to get myself a try. They've tried a few times. One opportunity he knocked on, but he's done some hard work as Fossard.
St Helens supporters are staying to a man to cheer their team off. 30 seconds remaining. It has been quite a day at a ground that has been regarded as their bogey ground. Ben Harris is knocked on. 70's beckoning, must be a knock-on each way. Don't think there'll be enough time to put the scrum down because Bradford will plod. Little knock-on by Hooper. St Helens counting down to a 66-4 victory. There's not going to be time for this scrum. It's all over. What a day for St Helens. What a night of agony for Bradford. Saints close the gap on Leeds at the top. An awful day for Brian Noble and his team. A wonderful day for Jason Hooper and the Saints. Saints close on Leeds at the top. Warrington at the end of round 16 will be third in the table. Anderson's Angels. It was Millwood's Marauders not long ago. They have been breathtaking tonight. All right, Bradford had a man sent off. Let's not forget that Saints were ahead 18-4 at that stage. The match ended as a contest with the brandishing of the red card to Leon Price. It was deserved, there's no doubt about that. It looked an awful challenge from up here. But St Helens have been absolutely at their irresistible best. And they have won a match that, in the past, has often gone against them. Credit the Bradford fans. Steve-O said he would be interested to see their reaction. Well, they are applauding their men off the field for all of that. And the Bradford players trudge disconsolately off the Odsall field. A setback. They will view it as nothing more than that. But it has meant a lot to St Helens, to the fact that they have regrouped after Ian Millwood left the fold. They have bunched in behind the new man at the helm, Daniel Anderson, and it has been a great start to his St Helens coaching career. Bill Arthur is now talking to the man of the match, and how deserved is it that Jamie Lyon goes home with the watch?
Jamie, congratulations on a man of the match performance. When you came here, when you were coming here, did you anticipate a victory of this scale?
No, especially against a top team like Bradford, and just one of those days where everything stuck, and it was a really good win.
And what do you think the pace that you played at was possibly the key?
Yeah, I think it was, and I think our defence is really starting to improve, and if we can just keep our defence like that for the rest of the year, I think we'll be hard to beat.
And it must be a joy to be playing in a side like that when it's playing like that.
Yeah, that's right. We've got world-class players, and we've got a couple out at the moment with like really good players, and to do that with them out, it's really something special, and just hopefully keep it going.
And wins against Leeds, now Bradford in the space of a couple of weeks. That is some achievement.
Yeah, they're good wins, but we're not getting carried away. It's still a long way to go, and it is good to get that momentum, but like I said, there's a long way to go, mate.
And just that first try celebration, that was a little message back home, was it, for Riley?
Yeah, for my little boy, just to say that I remember him and haven't forgotten, and to my missus, hello to them as well.
Jamie, well done. There's your watch. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Let's bring the Saints skipper, Sean Long, with the new look, and just give us an insight into that first, because I think people were as used to the last look.
Nothing much really, just fancy the change. The weather's getting pretty warm, and just fancy a nice haircut.
I think they appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of people were telling me to get me a haircut. I looked a bit silly, but I just fancy the change and thought I'd get a cut.
Now this was some performance, wasn't it? Okay, Leon Price was sent off, which obviously the Bulls were up against it then, but you've still got to take advantage of that, and you certainly did.
Yeah, we played some entertaining football today. Early doors, the passes didn't kind of stick, but I knew, once the passes stuck, we played some entertaining football, and I know they were down to 12 men, which is a bit of a blow for them, but it was pretty hot tonight, and the guys showed some good class out there, and I think the dry weather, suits our game.
What's the difference though? 1 or 2 weeks ago, you know, those passes weren't sticking, and you yourself, you know, were very frustrated. I remember an afternoon like this, and they do stick. What makes the difference?
Just a bit of confidence, I think. We got a bit of confidence last week. Played some good football, and you know, the lads have dug in for one of the. We tinkered with a few things, and the gaffers brought a new dimension to us, and we're enjoying our football. And like I say, I think when the passes stick, we're hot, but when they don't, obviously we're not.
You're hot today.
Yeah, we played all right tonight, so.